And welcome everyone formally to our weekly call. Thanks all for joining. And let me also share my screen as always, just to use that as a prompt to talk to. So I'm just somehow that's an impressive start, isn't it? Typo in the first proper site. So we'll be talking about DNS-OARC as opposed to DNS-D-OARC. First, then the usual. There's a few very interesting developments over the last week, which I'll come to, and we should have time at the end for any other business as well, having covered off a few other things. But I was prompted by John, one of the program committee, to mention this, so I figured we'd start with that, which is just a reminder that there's a deadline looming. I think next Tuesday is the 20th, if I remember rightly, of submissions for the next OARC event, which is due to take place in Atlanta next February. As you know, OARC events are always co-located with others, and this time round it's going to be co-located with NANOG 87 in Atlanta. So I think it's the 2 days immediately after NANOG. I believe it's taking place this time, so it's running afterwards rather than before. So there's a call for submissions at the moment. In the short term, they just need an abstract, so it's not particularly onerous, and that's by midnight UTC time on the 20th. You can see on the slide they're looking for subject matter sort of DNS related clearly, so some themes by way of suggestions, operational and deployment stuff, monitoring related presentations, or scaling and security and privacy are always safe bets, but I think are open to offers for other things if people have got good suggestions. So for example, the last OARC meeting, one of the guys from Meta gave a presentation on their sort of DNS infrastructure and the fact they would just they announced that they made it open sourced. So that, which was clearly none of those particular topics, but was nevertheless interesting to hear about that, and also have them to confirm it was now open sourced. Presentations either 20 minutes plus 5 minutes Q&A, or a sort of 10-minute plus 5-minute Q&A if you go for a lightning presentation, and you got till January to put in more details. Sorry, just knocking the slide. Submission of the abstract online through the website. You'll see some links there, which I'll share afterwards if that's of interest. No problem with joining remotely. It's fully hybrid, as you would expect nowadays. But if you are joining remotely, they do need you to attend a rehearsal a week or so prior to the event proper, just to make sure that everything is working properly, rather than having any surprises on the day. So that's the plug for OARC. I don't know if any of the program committee happen to be on this call currently.
Yep. I'm here. This is John Todd.
Oh, hi, John. Sorry, I didn't see you join. In which case, John, have I missed anything, or anything you want to add to that?
No, this is perfect. I would say that we're always interested in encryption-specific talks as well. That seems to be an area that's generating quite a bit of research and questions, and that's of great interest to the OARC community. So, thanks.
Right. Okay, so yeah, please anything through, and as I say, I'll share these links so you've got these to hand if you are minded to put forward an abstract for consideration. Okay, unless there are any questions on that, I shall move on. So just pause just in case there are. I'm not seeing anything come up, so I will assume that there aren't, and we'll move on then. Okay, so let's press on. I'll rattle through some of the recent headlines, just to sort of highlight a few things for your attention. Firstly, Centre have made available their report on some of the highlights from the IETF 115 meeting in London, and similarly, Jeff Houston, even of APNEC, has sort of written up his highlights of DNS-related discussions at the Internet Governance Forum from a couple of weeks ago. As well as I also spied a slightly broader write-up of highlights from the IGF, from the Digital Watch Observatory. So anyone that wants to catch up with anything from those, there's some helpful summaries available. There was also an interesting article on air-gapped networks being vulnerable to DNS attacks using, yeah, I suppose it depends on your definition of what an air-gapped network is, which I think, if I recall from social media, I think, Peter, you probably made this point as well on probably Twitter or LinkedIn or something, that if you wanted a properly secure network, you maybe don't link it to the internet at all. But this one was just highlighting a vulnerability by attacking both the air-gapped network and the rest of the infrastructure via the DNS. But is that a fair comment, Peter? That I think you've also
pretty... No, I did make the same comment in a bunch of places. It's not air-gapped. It says air-gapped networks vulnerable to DNS. They're not. If they're actually air-gapped. It was funny though, because Bleeping Computer had the same article put up on their Twitter feed, and then immediately afterwards was one about an actual really interesting attack on air-gapped computers, which was to do with fluctuating in the power.
Oh yes, I did see that as well, which I completely forgot to put in. Yeah, which was really interesting, wasn't it?
It was. It's fascinating, but that's an actual air-gapped computer that was physically disconnected from like everything else. So it was. It's kind of funny to see them back to back. This is, I think, just a clickbait headline from, it's like a republished PR piece or something.
Yeah, but yeah, the other one, the more interesting and genuine one, that was it voltage fluctuations in power supplies or something were being used to radiate data, or it is quite a challenging way of attacking a network. But
yeah, it was it had a really good picture actually of someone standing in a hallway outside a computer that was fluctuating its I think it was like something or other, but you could detect it through the wall if you're sort of just standing next to the wall. It was a really good little graphic, I thought, and shows that actually this kind of thing, even though it's theoretical and difficult, does have some sort of value. It had like 10 bits per second transfer rate, which is enough to get an SSH key.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so more of the sort of story, if you want it to be properly air-gapped, A, don't connect it to the internet, and B, maybe consider a Faraday cage just to be really safe. But definitely don't connect it to the internet, would be a good start. So rather helpfully, in a similar vein, also in dark reading, there was a report about some different attacks to bypass cloud security, and unsurprisingly, DNS in this example, DOE, was one of the top methods identified by researchers as a means to target cloud-based systems. Which I know DOE's cropped up a number of times for various different uses that are malware related in different ways. So that probably won't come as a surprise to anyone. Also on this slide, you see RIPE publishing a series of blog posts on security through diversity. So I won't make a particular comment about this post specifically, but more a case of just drawing your attention to the series if you've not caught it. They're definitely worth a read if that's of interest to you. Power DNS has made available some sort of new product which is more suited to sort of cloud-based systems, just continuing the theme around the cloud. So just the continued evolution of the Power DNS software. And VeriSign with their quarterly update to the industry, just a shade under 350 million domain name registrations in the third quarter of the year, which I guess keeps those companies that do things like reputational scoring, etc., quite busy one way or another, which seamlessly leads into the article underneath about the use of domain scoring to determine whether a domain is a threat or not. Just a short article again on dark reading this week. And then I just picked out a couple of things which are, I don't think any obvious link at all to DNS, but I thought they were interesting. Sort of one definitely in the policy area about the right to be forgotten. Yeah, certainly within the EU, according to the European Court, and I should say European Court, not EU Court, to be clear. Yes, this idea that if misinformation is available on the internet, that you do have a right to require Google to delete the search results that point to the misinformation. That's a result of a recent court ruling. Obviously, only applies within the sphere that the court has jurisdiction, so they don't have to delete the results anywhere else, but you do have the right to be forgotten, even as it relates to misinformation. I also noted with interest that Microsoft have just acquired a company called Luminicity, which I think is a company that specialises in hollow core fibre, which I just thought it was interesting that they'd made that acquisition. Obviously, being very much in the infrastructure space, not an area you'd necessarily expect Microsoft to have an interest. So it caught my eye for that reason. And then finally, AdGuard, who often put some interesting stuff, in my view, on their blog. They got a roundup of a range of different topics, which I thought were well worth reading. In particular, around alleged leaks of data by Twitter and WhatsApp. There's also a continuing theme. They've had a number of stories over the last sort of few weeks or months about Apple and personal data and so on that they sort of picked up. So as I say, which are of interest to me, which I thought were worth flagging this week, just of general interest. As I say, no specific DNS angle, but just caught my eye for what it's worth. Moving on, I'm not aware of any other major events this calendar year, but things sort of really start up again in earnest in early February, and really take off from there. A reminder, as we were talking about earlier, so yeah, NANOG and then OARC following on immediately afterwards in Atlanta. And then all of a sudden we're at ITF 116, which is only sort of back end of March. So we've got quite a few things coming up as we get into the new year. And unsurprisingly, with all those events, plenty of calls for papers for pretty much all of those. And a reminder, the one in bold at the top, about the Journal of Cyber Policy with a call for papers for its forthcoming special issue on DNS. If you've not picked up on that, so a reminder to look at that if you've not already done so.
Just a quick note, the FOSDEM CFP is actually finished, Matt.
Is it just passed? Okay, fine.
Yeah.
I'll knock that off for the future ones. So thank you for that, Peter. But I'm sure if you've got anything you wanted to put forward, perhaps contact the organisers rapidly. And then in terms of things coming up, I especially wanted to promote the fact that this time next week, apart from our hotly awaited Christmas top 10 of the sort of most popular topics from the last 12 months, I thought it was also entirely appropriate that we should have, depending on your sort of which part of the world you're from, a Christmas jumper or ugly sweater competition next week. So I just wanted a reminder that we should be doing that, as well as talking about what the sort of top topics of interest from the last year were. But do, if you have the opportunity, come armed with your Christmas jumper or ugly sweater of choice to delight your peers with. Then we have a gap of a couple of weeks before starting afresh on the sort of second Monday of January, the 9th, where Peter will be talking about blocking and privacy and related matters. So, as I say, this is a gentle reminder to rummage through your wardrobes to pick out your best or worst Christmas jumper stroke ugly sweater for the sort of viewing pleasure of your peers, which I'm sure there'll be plenty of people with suitably interesting examples that you maybe would like to share. So that'll be how we'll wrap up the year next week. And that, I think, this week is pretty much it from me, which was a fairly light week this week, deliberately, just in the build up to the ugly sweater competition. But I just wanted to give a chance. So does anyone else have anything that you think would be particularly useful to share with colleagues from the last week or so, or anything you wanted to pick up on to comment on that I've just mentioned? So I'll give you a chance to do so. And if you have, unmute, raise your virtual hand, or put something in the chat as you prefer, whichever's easier for you. So give you a chance to do so. Oh, the other thing I should mention, actually, whilst you're thinking, if with an IETF perspective, if you have a comment on any of the nominees for any of the IETF positions that are being considered by the NomCom team, I think midnight tonight UTC time is the deadline for you to comment on any of the nominees. So if you have any thoughts on any of them, you've got a few more hours where you can put those into Data Tracker. And if you're unsure, if you do a search for the 2022 NomCom, you should be able to find sort of details of all the nominees, and to just click on those to make any comments on any of them as you see fit. So yeah, sorry, I forgot to put that on the slide, but just a reminder that deadline's coming up. But anyway, let me stop there and just see, does anyone have anything else that's come up over the last week or so that you think it will be useful to share this week? Not seeing any hands raised. I'm not seeing anything in the chat. Just give it another few seconds just in case. And if not, I think we'll wrap up early this week with a reminder to sort of go dig out your favourite, if that's the right phrase, ugly sweater to share on Monday, next Monday. Peter, were you wanting to come in with something? Or
No, just going to say goodbye. I'm not going to be here for a while, but
of course, because
we'll see another day.
is that you're getting your excuse in not to come in armed with a suitably ugly sweater? Then
100%.
Yeah,
I'm wearing my ugly
I don't
sweater now.
own such a thing as an ugly sweater, Andrew. So I'm not buying one just for your meeting. And also I won't be here next Monday, so I'll take this opportunity to wish everybody a happy holiday, Christmas, whatever you want to call it, season, and I'll see you all in the new year.
wearing your
You
new
too.
AWS hat.
Yes, indeed.
Fantastic.
I'm
And
sorry,
Vicky,
Vicky, I think I spoke over you. I do apologise.
Just say you too, mate. Have a good and everyone have a great Christmas and a good New Year, and see you in 2023.
and I think Vicky was trying to come in as well. Vicky, was there something you wanted to add?
Oh, I was just going to say I'm wearing my ugly sweater today, but it's not ugly on purpose. I just made it myself. And I, in fact, actually know how to do this, and I don't like following directions. So I won't let you see the entirety of the sweater, but trust me, it's ugly.
It's that it just ends there, just slightly below the video. I think it's lovely. I'd wear that.
I don't go in for fixing mistakes when I make them.
Quite right. Spoken like a true development engineer, Vicky. Fantastic. All right. Well, Peter and Brett, I think the rest of us might be suitably envious that you're able to take a break over the next few weeks. So see you in the new year, and everybody else. Hopefully, if your diaries permit, we'll see you next week, and at least some of you will be armed with something suitably horrific for the enjoyment of everybody else this time next week. So have a fantastic week, and catch you all then.
Thanks.
Bye,
Bye.
Andrew.
Well,